like to come out here and tell stories. Story time. But sometimes I like going out here and telling y'all stories about how my day goes. And I'm going to do that tonight. So I'm sitting in the middle of carpool. Yes, your boy, just like you, most of you, some of you at least, your boy's got to go through carpool. It's time to go pick up Ben, my son. So I'm going through carpool, and I'm just sitting there looking at YouTube shorts, scrolling down. My daughter Jules in the back seat just scrolling down some shorts, whatever. We're waiting for carpool, whatever. No big deal. And then I see a video. And in that video, this person was talking about LSU and LSU football. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. What do they say? And in the video, it says that individually there could be guys in the transfer portal from that LSU got this year in their number one overall recruiting class that can have the biggest impact as individuals on LSU's team this year more than they've ever had. And I thought to myself, wait a minute, what? And I thought to myself, I said, self, wouldn't that mean if you're talking about individual guys that you got from the transfer portal, like they did something so amazing, like Jaden Daniels or like what Joe Burrow did? Is like that what we're talking about? Like individually, they can have more success than what LSU has ever gotten in the portal ever as individuals, not as a whole in the unit that you have. And I thought to myself, wait a second. The last Heisman Trophy winner you got was from the transfer portal under Brian Kelly in year one. And so I was like, I get maybe what you were trying to say was that the production as a whole is going to be greater from the portal than Brian Kelly ever had. Now, that might be a little bit more to say, too, because Jaden Daniels was in that 2022 class. But regardless, I get what you were trying to say, but then I don't know what you're trying to say because it took me 3 times to listen back through the YouTube short, and I'm like, wait, no, this man actually believes that individually that somebody on LSU's roster this year was going to win a Heisman, or at least in 2 years would win a Heisman. Then it got me thinking. Now, I don't know if I necessarily believe that. Actually, today I tweeted at you, no, I don't believe it. No, I don't believe it. But if there were some guys that could do it, who would it be? Well, guys, to be honest with you, unless it's a crazy COVID year that we have this year, which I'm not anticipating that we're going to have, is, and that's a joke. I hope that all of you receive it as a joke. It's a joke. But who could it be? I don't think it's going to be a receiver. I don't think it's going to be one of these defensive ends. They'd have to do something miraculous and spectacular for a defender to win back-to-back years. And I don't even know if you consider Travis Hunter to be a defender. I mean, he's more than just that. I don't know who that would be. I mean, wide receiver, maybe. I mean, you did get a quarterback, Michael Van Buren. Maybe if something absolutely wild happens, like week 1, Garrett goes down, knock on wood. Don't want that to happen, knock on wood. But God forbid he does, and then he goes on a Heisman run, or he takes over next year for Garrett, and he goes on a Heisman run. Okay, I get that. That's a big hot take. It's a massive hot take. But okay, cool. I'm with you. I get you. But wasn't nobody thinking about Michael Van Buren? Nobody was bigger than Michael Van Buren. I mean, nobody. Backtrack. Nobody but probably Michael Van Buren that you could think realistically with just your own brain without having some kind of magic 8-ball or Jesus reincarnated came back and told you, hey, Barian Brown's going to win the Heisman this year. Okay, because those odds would be really long. Now, this person who said it, I mean, at the time that we're saying it, you would have to say some crazy stuff for that to be true. But here's what I do agree. Because, boy, we had a conversation, you and I, some of you that I had conversations with today, just going back in the comment section of this insane. Hey, I get what you're saying. I think this transfer portal class can do that. I think that they have more ability than anything to be overall. I get Jaden Daniels in 2022. I get Joe Burrow coming in as a grad transfer. I get that. But the overall whole of Joe Burrow's not going out there. Jaden Daniels wasn't going out there and making tackles when you needed it most at safety. Now, they were fantastic. They were legit. They're Louisiana, LSU Hall of Fame worthy. They should have their own statue outside of Death Valley. That's neither here nor there. But I see them as a whole. I get you. I'm with you. I fully understand. If the take is that of all classes as a whole, that this class could be the best, talent v. talent, I'm with you there. If that's the take. It wasn't the take, but if it was, I'm with you. Speaking of that, when we come out of this break here, got to go on to something. So it's funny how life works. Last night, I gave a post-spring evaluation. And what was interesting is when we were done with the show last night, some of you in the comments came back and said, Blake, why are you doing a post-spring evaluation? Like, I get why you're doing a post-spring evaluation. Why are you talking about, like, football like this now? Well, because normally, guys, in the month of May, it's where some things football-wise really kind of starts cranking up. Like, hey, post-spring, top 25. Okay, cool. Or you have takes like we had today. So Brad Crawford over at 247 and Peter Burns had some comments. When we come back out of a break, the first topic is LSU a national playoff contender? Are they a playoff contender? Now, some of you saw this on Twitter. I did ask Brad to come on the show. We'll see what happens there. I would love to debate what he sees, maybe versus what I do not see, or some things that I do see, and ask him if he's concerned at these specific positions. We'll find out. We'll see. But a conversation will be good nonetheless. We'll break down and talk about the upcoming series versus Arkansas. We won't do the deep dive, but we will preview the series versus Arkansas. Then we have time at the end. We'll do questions. Hashtag Ask Blake. Randy Jones, who I met, Randy, at game 2, the baseball game a couple Saturdays ago. He says, Big Blake, keeping it real. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I appreciate you. It's nice meeting you, my man. Peyton Gates says, is DT our biggest flaw in your opinion, or is it play calling? Defensively, I would say if you're talking about defensive play calling, I think DT's bigger than the play calling. If you're asking me offensive play calling or DT's our biggest flaw, I would say that play calling has been worse more than the DT's. Does that make sense? Like if it's offensive play calling, so Peyton, whatever your question is there, yes. He also says, I'm worried about the offensive line, but kind of hard when you haven't seen the day one starters. I agree. I very, very much agree. Nate East with some laughing face emojis. Nate, what did I say? I'm sure I said something stupid. What did I say? Here tonight. Chase says, what up, Blake? From the 318-31, great. Good to have you in here, Chase. Where are all of you watching from tonight? You know, man, I got to tell you, something that's interesting. The city of Houston loves you, boy. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. The city of Houston loves you, boy. We love you. I love the city of Houston. So, y'all keeping it real out there in Houston. Where are y'all watching from tonight? Sam Houston says, is Kim Mulkey getting another big to go along with Koval? I do not know. I just do not know. I do not know. Chris Lomax says, Blake, do you think BK is on the hot seat? I do not believe that. I do not think that he's on the hot seat. No. I don't. No. I think if you have another year like he had a year ago, people are going to want him on the hot seat. Yes. I'm not saying me necessarily, but I think. Well, let me ask y'all all this. Thumbs up, thumbs down in the chat. If Brian Kelly goes 8-4 next year, would you put him on your hot seat? Would you put him on your hot seat? 720 Gaming says Houston has our largest LSU fan base outside Louisiana. That is true. That is true. Bert, H-Town, see? H-Town be loving, baby. Bill, H-Town, see? I'm telling y'all, man. I'm telling y'all. The H be loving us. Pause. But they do. They do be loving us. The city of Houston, baby. The city of Houston. Sugarland. Sugarland be loving your boy. When I think of Sugarland, Texas, I think of like these, women. You know what I mean? The Sugarland, what's happening? H-Town, what's happening? Because I'm from Texas. D-Music says hot seat for sure. I'm with you. Look who it is. Big Mamu in the building. Kevin Fontenot, Baton Rouge via Mamu. Yeah. Big Mamu in the building. If y'all see Big Mamu at the LSU games, y'all got to do us a favor. If he's out there tailgating, brother, I'm just going to tell you right now, the food going to be slapping. You're going to want to call your mama. You know what time it is. My man can cook, bro. He can cook. Big Mamu, what's happening? Bert says via Crowley, Louisiana. Good to have you in here, Bert. Chris, yeah, but $50 million cools that seat. So if Brian Kelly's on the seat, yes, $50 million, 45, even $40 million, whatever it may be. Yeah, that cools that seat, brother. It cools that seat real quick. You're right. He's 1,000% right. Because if let's just say LSU does go 8-4 again next year, and some of y'all coming in here like, hey man, fire Brian Kelly. And we say, but you owe $50 million if you do it. And you'd be like, all right, well, we'll suffer this a couple more years. Don't give him a contract extension. Then get him out of here unless he doesn't do something. And then if he does do something, fire Scott Woolward. Or if he doesn't do something, fire Scott Woolward in the process. You know and I know that's what everybody would be saying. Don't act like y'all wouldn't be saying that now. Y'all know good and damn well y'all be out here. Fire Scott with him. Fire Scott with him. This man gave him a 10-year contract. By the way, he hired Jimbo. He was the one that hired Jimbo at Texas A&M. Y'all know good and damn well. Good and damn well. Y'all know good and damn well y'all be up in here doing that now. Don't be playing with me. See, some of y'all right now thinking to yourself, you know what? I mean, he ain't wrong. He ain't wrong. You know what? He might be a crazy Cajun Italian, but he ain't wrong. He ain't wrong. Boy, y'all done fucked. Y'all messed this kid up. He's got Italian and Cajun. I mean, how messed up is that? You got more. I got a shorter fuse than TNT. Kaboom. So yeah. See, if you pay, here's the thing about that too. If you pay the $50 million, you're gonna have to pay probably another $50 million if you want a top tier head coach, and then you're gonna have to pay his salary and his coaches' salaries. And then you're going to have to pay the buyouts on top of that. It ain't just BK that you're firing now. It wouldn't be just BK that you're firing. But here's the thing. We're talking about that too much. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen. At least I hope it's not what happens. Anyway, let's do this. Let me get to a quick break. When we come back, the national narrative that is out there right now about LSU, it's literally happened all over social media. We'll tell you what it is. We come back and debate the national narrative that is starting to hit about the Tigers versus the reality of what we talked about last night. We'll get to that in just a moment. Also, we come back, talk about Arkansas. We'll preview that series, not the deep dive, but we will talk about that series, some things that I think LSU's got to do going into this weekend. Oh, and by the way, hashtag Ask Blake at the end. Thoughts, questions, concerns. If we get to it, we'll get to it. We'll talk to you then. Let me get to a quick break. Everyone hit the share. Share on Facebook, share on Twitter, hit that like button on YouTube, repost it, do whatever you got to do. We greatly appreciate y'all doing that. Hit the like and share. We're back next. Stay with us. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to wager on all of your favorite sports, contests, events with the first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews for all the news for each league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, college sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information for live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head on over to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BELIEVE50, BLEAV 50, to receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag, betonline.ag.
He will sell your house and find you a new. Well, Tyler's the man, he's here for you. If you want to buy or sell, well, it's not too late. Dial 955-0008. Just call 955-0008. Y'all call Tyler, he'll shoot you straight.
Guys, let me tell you about our good friends over at Grand Slam Heating and Air, where your comfort is their top priority. At Grand Slam Heating and Air, they promise to provide customers with high-quality HVAC service at an affordable price while ensuring the homeowner peace of mind. From their office to your home, they guarantee the best hassle-free experience around. Efficiency and comfort is their game. Let them make your home Grand Slam today. At Grand Slam Heating and Air, they're offering their annual maintenance plan starting off at $18.75 a month and also doing those $99 tune-up promotion. They provide free estimates for system and ductwork replacement, as well as offering financing to get the job done with no money up front. From Baton Rouge to Hammond to Covington, they're all around. So what you need to do today, give them a call at 225-380-9065. That's 225-380-9065. Or go over to their website, getgrandslamair.com. That's getgrandslamair.com, where your comfort is their top priority.
We're back.
Okay. I did see this in the chat. Yes, I did see this in the chat. Pi says that the floor is 7-5. Man, that's such a low floor. That's a low floor, man. You're if it starts unraveling like that, then man, I don't know if it's worse than that. If it unravels, I think it really, really unravels. I don't think you have a winning season. I think you go like Oklahoma did last year. Maybe you go 6-6. Like if you're not in the, as crazy as it sounds, I think that you're not in between there, right? Like I think even if you have some of the same success that you had a year ago or lack thereof success that you had there a year ago, then I don't know, because I just don't – I don't know, man. I want to hope that the floor is maybe 8 because of injuries or just bad things happen. That's where I want to go. That's where I would want to go. But speaking of that, today on social media, and now that we're in the month of May, as I've been kind of throwing out there, you're going to start seeing these national narratives on teams for the football season that's going to be pushed. How do you know? Well, here's just the God's honest truth. We do a national college football show because we're doing it. We're doing deep dives, and we're talking about teams that we're looking forward to, guys, in August that really just isn't that far away. And by the way, in July, so really about a little bit more than a couple of months, and July 15th, it's not too far away that you'll start having SEC media days in here as well. The narrative got pushed today, and I don't know if the narrative is such a bad word in today's media. Maybe there's another word that I should use here, and I'm going to do it. The national preview of LSU going into the 2025 season is this. You talk about our guy over Brad Crawford. I say my guy, like or our guy, like I know him that well, or if all. But Brad Crawford over at 247 Sports and Peter Burns at the SEC Network came out today, and Brad Crawford said that he is going all in on LSU for the playoffs this year, or he's thinking about going all in for LSU for the playoffs this year, making them a playoff lock team. Peter Burns quote tweeted that and says, for sure, he believes that LSU is a bona fide playoff team. Now, Here's the thing. Here's where I'm at on this. I think that there's a very good chance that the both of them could be right. I respect their opinions. I think that they do really good jobs at what they do. That's why that their content's out there being blasted, and why they do so well on social media, because their takes are normally good versus being just really, really bad. I don't disagree with Brad. I don't disagree with Peter. I don't disagree that this team can make the playoffs. This team can easily be 10-2. Hell, if you have a really good year, 11-1, that team can do that. You look at what they are on paper. You look at LSU on paper and say, well, you got a second-year quarterback coming in Garrett Nussmeier. You have some receivers that have SEC-level experience, like Nick Anderson, who had the game-winning touchdown catch versus Texas 2 years ago. You have Barrion Brown that has over a career of 1,500 receiving yards. Oh, by the way, he broke the SEC record for punt and kick returns in 1 year, almost did it individually. You look at Aaron Anderson, who had over 884 receiving yards a year ago with 5 touchdowns, and probably was your number one receiver. You see a guy like Caden Durham, who had big games and big runs, like versus Florida. Like, you look at what he did at South Carolina, that quite honestly probably was the reason that you won that game and how you got back in things offensively. I'm with them there. I don't think that anybody saying that LSU is a playoff team is a bad take whatsoever. I do, for what it's worth, think that saying that they're a bona fide playoff team, like they're a lock to be a playoff team, is a bit much for me. So I did say the word narrative earlier, and I think every single team, whether good, bad, or indifferent, goes into a season with a narrative. That's what makes sports great. Hey, what are the expectations for this team based off of what we think, either you as the fan, me and the media, whatever we think about the teams. That's what makes it fun. We get to have those opinions and have those debates. But if LSU is a bona fide playoff team going all in on the Tigers in 2025, there are questions that we have to get answered, and that will be answered. Here's the thing that will be answered, that questions that you know for a fact that LSU has overcome. Guys, in all of the SEC losses under Brian Kelly in the first 3 years, offenses have averaged over 250 rushing yards on you. That means, number one, for sure, for a fact, without a doubt, that you had games where it was not that bad run defense-wise. It wasn't. Because playoff teams, unless they do something special offensively, which also can happen, something's got to give there. Something has got to give when we look at this defense and say, listen, there's 3 seasons on Brian Kelly at LSU. One common theme is that SEC teams that you have lost to, you average giving up 250 yards against on the ground. Guys, not only does that have to cut, I don't want to say in half, but it's got to start getting somewhere closer to that. That cannot happen. So the answer would be, if LSU got into the playoff, that there were games like I think of Alabama, who you couldn't stop last year. Now, they don't have Jalen Milroe anymore, and they got to find their old running game. I think of Ole Miss and Ulysses Bentley making major burns, miss in the hole very badly, and going for 50 yards. I think of Jackson Dart's big runs that he had in the fourth quarter, that even though that they missed a field goal, well, if they would have kept running Jackson Dart, the very good chance is that you weren't going to stop him anyway. I think about games like we had a season ago versus Texas A&M, who Marcel Reed for sure did run all over you too. The answers will be had. You would be saying things like, well, Sadir Mitchell was a very good pickup. Don McKinley really came in and gave some really good snaps, or worked himself into the 5-star that we all thought he could be. It would mean that the edge rushers and Patrick Payton, not Barry Brown, and Patrick Payton, and a developmental guy that you had a year ago that now coming into his sophomore season is making a rise, and Gabe Relaford. Jack Pyburn played a big part. That's what you will be saying. Whit Weeks, who led the team in tackles last year at 125 tackles. Guys, Whit Weeks had 125 tackles a year ago. Some of those big games, Whit did not perform in. Well, he did start doing that this year. He started doing that this year. Against A&M, no, they weren't out physicaling him again. He made some really good plays. And the Honky Badger lives. But one thing is for sure, LSU defensively must be better. Not a question, not an opinion, must be better for them to be a bona fide playoff team or even an SEC contender for what it's worth, because you're not borderline getting into the playoffs without being an SEC contender to get there. Won't happen. Guys, if you're 10-2, that means that more than likely one of your losses comes at the end of the season. That means that you're making a run to Atlanta. For a fact, it means you're making a run to Atlanta. Let's say that you do. Well, you got to start stopping the run. You got to start stopping the run. That's the first question that you will be able to answer. The second one is that you're going to have to start running the football. So as much as the inverse is of that you got to stop it, now this year in a struggling offense post Jaden Daniels running the football, you're going to have to find ways to win by lining up and simply handing the ball off. Guys, LSU lost 4 games last year, and in those 4 games, LSU ran for 113 yards against USC. They ran for 34 yards against Texas A&M. They ran for 104 yards against Bama. The best performance was against Florida, where they ran for 128. And then against Ole Miss, who they did not lose to. Even in that game that came down to overtime, guys, they had 84 rushing yards. Kane Durham led the way in rushing with 37. If LSU is going to make and be a bona fide playoff team, there's no way that you're going to pass your way only to being that in the SEC. There's no way. Unless your receivers and your quarterback, which can happen. I don't believe that it can, but can happen. Garrett, Nick Anderson, Barry and Brown, Chris Hilton, Aaron Anderson, Trey Green, Bauer Sharp. Let's just say they go dumb diddy dum dum. And they're tossing that pill all around and nobody can stop their ass. It's like the Rams in the early 2000s. It's the greatest show on Bayou Turf. That can't happen. They have that potential to do it. There's nobody on planet Earth that's going to tell you that Garrett, these receivers do not have the potential to do that. They do. Will they? Will they be locked in this offseason? Will they do it? The potential is there. The question is, are they putting in the work to get themselves there? That is the ultimate question. Because there's been no national champion, none, in the recent years that I can remember that have been able to get to the Final Four, much less maybe even Texas would be the one. Teams that get there, think of who they were a year ago. Notre Dame, what do they do? What do they do, guys? What does Notre Dame do? If you watch them play, what do? They run the pill. What does Penn State do? Well, guys, Penn State was a top 10 team or top 15 team offensively last year at running the football. Guys, they averaged over 200 yards rushing a year ago. Texas would be the only outlier, but they still had a 1,000-yard rusher, which you did not have. Now, Texas is a whole different situation. Against Georgia, they had a lot of the same numbers that you did. They ran the ball for 29 yards and 31 in games 1 and games 2, the SEC championship game. Guys, they barely clipped over 60 yards. They clipped 60 yards. They had 60 yards rushing against Georgia in 2 games. Maybe you can do it. But what did Texas do? They were very great defensively, and they could throw the ball around a little bit. And their schedule was a little light. Hell, they played Clemson. They played Arizona State. It is doable. But there's going to have to be something that really gives. Either your defense is going to have to be bona fide really good, or you're going to have to throw that pill around. Because these games that you lost, and I throw Alabama in there. I mean, I throw Ole Miss in there. I throw Ole Miss in there so I can have a better number of 5 to calculate the number that I'm about to tell you. Because you averaged last year, and I could have even put South Carolina in there too, and Caden Durham had a really good performance. That would have boosted this number. Because when you look at the teams that you lost to a year ago and a team that you had to beat in overtime, so games that weren't ended in regulation or teams that you lost to, guys, you averaged 90 yards on the ground. And Florida, in the Florida game, you had 128. The only reason that you have that is, guys, you had the ball for 40 minutes. You had the ball on offense 2/3 of the time last year against Florida, and you only had 128. The number benefits LSU. It was much worse than that against Florida. You're going to have to run the football. There's no bones about it. There's no, in my humble opinion, getting over that. So I talk about those two things. That national preview or that national narrative or expectation going into the season for LSU, for me, guys, they got to answer some massive questions. And what I think happens is that expectations start getting on a team that don't even really know each other. Because these dudes don't know each other like that. You're bringing in 18 transfers. I didn't throw in the punter in last night's show because, well, it is what it is. But even him, you're bringing in 18 new players along with the 20-plus that you signed. Guys, more than half of your team, almost 2/3 of your team is brand spanking new. Brand spanking new. Now, you do have some good pieces that come back. When you look at them on paper, because I think that LSU is a playoff team. When you look at them just on the paper and on the surface, there are going to be things in the season that we're going to have to overcome, and I say we like I'm a part of the team, that LSU is going to have to overcome to make that a reality. Because nobody wants to see this run defense get better than your boy here. Nobody. I know a lot of you do too. Nobody wants to. Guys, when I played college football 25, you know what my playbook is? It's either Louisville's or Michigan's. And we line up and run that rock. And some years, if I have a very athletic quarterback, by the way, at LSU, if I have a very athletic quarterback, which is going to happen this year in the game that I'm playing or the dynasty that I'm playing, then I'll go to Kansas's. Say, man, we're going to run that pill. Great teams find ways to run the football. On paper, LSU is there. Can they overcome some of these obstacles? The pieces that are coming back, I do think we haven't really talked about. You know, the interesting thing is that even in the spring, we got, all of us, myself included, got so overwhelmed by the guys coming in. And how could you not? Right? Like, how could you not be just completely overwhelmed by every single addition that you made through the portal? Guys, it was a lot. And you're like, holy shizite. LSU out here spending that money. And you're like, damn, they're actually out here doing it. And so they get out there during spring, and there's every single position that we want to talk about because we feel like we know at minimum what we can get from the following players. We know that with Caden Durham, you don't expect, or you shouldn't go into the season expecting that he will get hurt again. And as a freshman, he came in and averaged 5.5 yards per carry, 5.4, but I'm rounding up to 5.5. But 5.5 yards per carry on 140 carries at 753 yards and 6 touchdowns. Gus, can he be more productive? The reason we're not talking about Caden Durham is because you feel that he can. And if he does, then those pieces that you added, you start feeling confident in. In reference to Caden Durham, and why I don't know if production goes up for him, is I don't know the trust level that I have for the play calling in the run game. I don't know if I trust it. I don't know how I like the run game sequencing. Because you're expecting Caden Durham, who had 753 yards last year and 6 touchdowns on the ground. He had 8 touchdowns total. He didn't become your real feature back until week 3, by the way. So he's almost averaging a touchdown a game. You're hoping and feeling that he is going to have a second better season. And a guy, quite frankly, that had 1,000 yards in total offense a year ago. Can Caden Durham get up to 1,500? He had 1,000 as a freshman, and you could barely run the football. Yeah, that's a reasonable expectation. 1,000 total yards, whether catching or running the rock, and he had 8 touchdowns. Do you get 1,500 total yards from him and 12 to 13 touchdowns? Does that happen? That's a big difference in how LSU season goes next year. So when we talk about, like, hey, man, you're going to have to do this, it comes on the backs of two, that you have guys like Caden Durham that you feel that can take that next step. And if they do, okay, then you might be a bona fide playoff team. Let's see if they can do it. Not the only one offensively, though. A lot of them offensively, if we're being honest. And I think of Trey'Dez Green. We talked a lot about Trey'Dez Green, but he's a piece that comes back after having 4 touchdowns a season ago for the Tigers, and you're like, hey, man, they didn't get him involved a lot, but, brother, when they did, like the RPO against Ole Miss and like what he did with the 2 touchdowns versus Baylor when it was finally his time to be the number 1 tight end. Guys, I think Trey'Dez Green is going to be a bona fide superstar. I fully believe that. I think that he has every ability in the book to be, guys, I think he could be better. I don't think he can break the records of Mason Taylor because Mason started as a true freshman. I even think that his ceiling is higher, much higher than Mason Taylor. Guys, what if you got more production at tight end, more than what you got from Mason Taylor, who broke every single record for the tight ends at LSU? Then you might be a bona fide playoff team, but we got to see that happen. I think that one for sure can happen, but here's the thing. When it comes to receiver and when it comes to the passing game, you know, I do hear that, well, Blake, do you feel like that we have a lot of weapons and some guys are just not going to get their fair share of touches? I think that that's very fair. But here's what I know. Garrett Nussmeier had 525 passing attempts a year ago. And even if your main top 5 targets are Nick Anderson, Aaron Anderson, Trey'Dez Green, Chris Hilton, and Barry and Brown, guys, that's 105 targets apiece. That's a lot. That is a lot. That's about 8 targets per game for everybody. That's a lot. Now, I hope that you don't have to throw the ball that much, because the reason you had to throw the ball that much is because you were down and because, quite simply, you just couldn't run the football. But even if you did what you did a year ago, I do feel like that you have much higher of a ceiling in a lot of different positions when you're talking about the passing game. Speaking of Aaron Anderson, guys, you know what's so funny? What is so funny to me? I felt like this entire spring, I didn't get one question on Aaron Anderson, and we barely even talked about him at all during the spring. Now, a couple of the reasons as to why that is because Aaron Anderson necessarily wasn't targeted that much, right? Like, he just wasn't targeted that much. I mean, Aaron was definitely in the spring, he was there, because maybe a couple of out routes here and there, maybe a corner route here and there in the red zone. Other than that, Aaron kind of didn't get a lot of action, I think, because they already know that how they feel about him and Garrett, and they're trying to get some other guys involved. The interesting thing about Aaron Anderson, and I'm not saying that it's a full, complete comparison. I look at Malik Neighbors in 2022, who had 72 catches, 117 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Now, he for sure at that moment in time was LSU's number one, right? Like we thought it was Kayshon Boutte, but Jane Daniels quickly moved from Kayshon Boutte being his number one target to it being Malik Neighbors. I think that we all remember that. If you remember in the preseason of 2022 in August, me and Matt Trent came out here and like, man, everybody talking about Kayshon Boutte, but this connection with Jane Daniels and Malik could be something special. I'll pull the episode if you want us to do it. But I sit here and say to myself, I have a guy in Aaron Anderson who had 61 catches a year ago, 884 yards, and 5 touchdowns. So more TDs than Malik, but less catches and less targets and less overall receiving yards. If he gets the same targets as Malik did in that 2022 season, which you had a whole other game, did Malik, because you played in the SEC championship game, does that equivalate? We've already saw a kid in year 2 of being at LSU who was a highly, highly talented guy make a massive move the year prior. Now, that would mean, well, I guess what I'm saying is, could Aaron Anderson be the Malik Neighbors to Jane Daniels' Garrett Nussmeier? I don't know if many are asking that question yet. But if that is the case, guys, is Aaron Anderson worse than he is a year ago? Like, I'm never projecting guys to be worse. I don't think you should ever go into the season and say, now, and some of that happens, right? Like some of that happens. Guys have really big year 2s, and then year 3, they don't really make it and they don't really do well. I get you. I'm not going to project that somebody's just going to have a bad year, but it can happen. And lastly, offensively, before we move to defense, I look at Garrett. And every single year that Garrett Nussmeier has been at LSU, there's one thing that I love the most. The one thing that I love the most is that every single year his completion percentage has gotten better. Every single year. From 58 to 61 to 62 to now, last year being 64%. Every single year, regardless of how good, bad, or indifferent it's been, one thing that he's shown constant improvement with has been he's been a little bit more accurate. And that's great. But you have a quarterback last year that did complete 64.2% of his passes on 525 attempts. He had 29 passing touchdowns with 3 rushing touchdowns, so clipped that 30 mark and getting 32. He had 12 interceptions with 5 fumbles lost as well. So there's only one thing about Garrett that's got to change. There's 2 things that there's a lot of things that you want to change, but there's one massive thing. Guys, if he does everything that he did a year ago, but the turnovers come down, guys, I think you make a playoff. I think you make a playoff. Nothing else has got to change. Maybe he's got to run a little bit more too. Maybe that's up there because he's going to have those opportunities and he needs to take them. Fine. But that's it. And that's what you're projecting from that national narrative. Last but not least on this, let's talk about Whit Weeks and the defensive side of things. I do think that, guys, you're going to have to find I don't want to say superstar. And I know that Whit has had a tough offseason coming off the injury. And I hope that he comes back 100%. Really, I do. Really, 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 I do. We need him to have a massive year. He's got to have a massive year. Now, it's difficult because a guy that had 125 tackles a year ago, you'd say that that's a massive year. I do think in some of the losses that you had a year ago, Whit was a liability. Dude's got a lot of talent, man. Dude's got a lot of talent. In these big games where teams are running right at him, he's got to be better. And I think that he is going to be better. How do you add on from 125 tackles? I don't know. But I kind of want that number to come down a little bit because he's not having to do all of that. That means a lot of other players are making a lot of plays. And that'd be great. Guys, one thing that I bring that up, one thing that I missed in the beginning of this segment that I want to hit on, and why I mentioned Witt and not really anybody else. Guys, LSU last year was tied for 86th in the country in tackles for loss a year ago. Blake Baker said that his biggest thing that he wants to do while at LSU is simply this. He wants to create havoc. He wants there to be a lot of action in the backfield. What he's really saying is yes, he wants to cause chaos, but he wants that end result of chaos to be tackles for loss. They didn't do a good job with it last year at all. Because 85th in the country is god-awful. It's not bad, but it's god-awful. You're going to have to get teams behind the sticks if you have any chance. I think that Whit Weeks plays a massive factor in doing that. I think you can make the argument he might be the factor. Your interior defensive line has got to play better, but that linebacking core has got to play better too. If LSU is a bona fide playoff team, guys, there's a lot of answers that got to be, there are a lot of questions that got to be answered. I see the vision. Guys, I think you see the vision. I see the vision. But I also understand the reality of there's a lot of new pieces coming in that we have no idea what's going to gel. And I made this comparison last night, and it bars to be brought back up today. You literally saw what happened at Ole Miss and what they did a year ago. They were a contender that fell short where everybody thought that they could be a playoff team. But here's the difference with them versus you. What the difference is that I don't think that you brought in a defensive line like that. Maybe you did, but you still brought in a lot of pieces. I still think that they might have a better D-line than what you had a year ago is what I'm saying, especially in the interior. I mean, Walter Nolan, Jared Ivey, I mean, my goodness. My goodness. Still had a damn good defense. And I still think that you might have brought one in your damn self. Because they went 9-3 a year ago on losses on teams that they had no business losing to. No business losing to. You want to know what the crux of their problem was a year ago? Offensive line. Because other than you, that they could not run the football. They couldn't. Does that sound familiar? I think that you have a coach, and I mean this. Brian Kelly takes a lot of shots because he's 6-2 versus Lane Kiffin all time. 6-2. Yeah, I do think that Brian Kelly knows more and can get you out of what's that extra win versus the extra loss that Kiffin literally did it. Guys, you beat him. Literally, it happened last year. You beat him. The bottom line is this. Bona fide, it's a stretch. Diving all in and saying that they're going to make a playoff, man, I can see it. I 1,000% can be convinced. Actually, no, that's a horrible way of saying it. I 100% believe it can happen. I don't need to be convinced. I just convince myself. But I have worries, man. I have worries that it feels like a lot to overcome. I hope they make it. I mean, if you ask me my projection on this, I would say 9-3 right now. before going into August. That can easily change once we get into August and we see exactly who they are. That's the great thing about it. That's the great thing about it. But man, they can be 10-2 too. I really do feel here. I really feel that your floor is 9-3, and I do feel like that your ceiling could be 10-2. I think you're right there. Are you going to go the opposite and finally get 10 wins in the regular season, or are you not? Or are you not? Because last year was really bad in situations, and I don't know if it's going to get much worse, if I'm being honest. I really, really, really don't. I don't think it will be much worse. I'm not going to say I don't think it can. I just don't think that it will. So that's where I'd say that you're at. That one game does mean a lot, though. Does mean a lot. All right. Kyle says 125 tackles in the season is not enough. That is top echelon in the SEC. Blake is on crack. Kyle, I'll tell you this. If you want to get in the weeds of it, I could show you A&M. I could show you Ole Miss. I can show you Florida. I can show you a lot of games where no, Witt nor the front seven or anybody in that front seven was good. Hey, Kyle, Alabama. Hey, Kyle, A&M. Everybody was getting whipped. 125 tackles is a great season. Who's it against? Oh, by the way, Kyle, I didn't bring up South Carolina in this. You want to go down that path, big dog? We can go down that path. Stats are stats until you open up your eyeballs and watch the games. Guys, nobody in that front seven. Guys, listen to me and listen to me good, because this is not an opinion. If per loss you're giving up over 200 yards on the ground, everybody's getting their asses whipped. That's not just a safety problem. It is not. You're going to blame the safety room for you giving up that much yardage? You're going to get now. Oh, but it's play calling now. Yeah, but it's play calling. Y'all blaming Blake Baker? It's Blake Baker's fault? Whose fault is it? Whose fault is it? Y'all can come in here and say a lot of things. Saying that I'm on crack is nuh-uh. By the way, when did I say it was a bad year? I didn't say he had a bad year. I said there are games that he's got to be better in. Let's line up the tape. Because here's the thing to Kyle. Kyle, I know for a fact that I'm right. For a fact. You can call me conceited. You can call me cocky. You can call me a flat-out arsehole, whatever you want to call me. What you can't say is that we can't turn on the film, and those things didn't happen now. Because they did. Because they did. Todd Davis says, Blake, I'm concerned that Vegas has us down at 8.5 instead of 9.5. Yeah. Todd, I agree with you. I mean, I don't really. Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong, Todd. What do they know? Spectrum Willcare says Dellinger injury was big last year. I agree. You couldn't run the football after that. And listen, you just had a lot of issues. All right, let me get to a break. When we come back, we'll preview briefly this Arkansas and LSU series. Stay with us. Guys, I want to talk to you about our good friends over the Drake Williams Law Firm and Drake Title Company. Are you facing tough times due to an injury from a car accident, navigating the complexities of divorce, or purchasing a new home? At the Drake Williams Law Firm and Drake Title Company, they understand the challenges you're going through, and they are here to help. The lawyer team of Ernie Drake III, Ryan J. Williams, and Summer Vignair, along with Morgan Daniels, have the experience and proven track record to give you that peace of mind. Give them a call today at 985-386-7600. That's 985-386-7600 to schedule a free consultation at their brand new office located in historic downtown Ponchatoula. They're also doing a special, the AYS special. If you're refinancing or closing on a home in Southeast Louisiana, request the Drake Title Company to handle your closing. If you mention Blake Ruffino and AYS, you're going to receive a $400 discount on title fees. Again, give them a call at 985-386-7600. Let them know that Blake Ruffino sent you on by. Guys, you might know my good friend Carol Foss and all the great service that he provides over at State Farm. He is your good neighbor after all. But did you know State Farm has surprisingly great rates as well? Along with the great neighbor service, State Farm agent Carol Foss has surprisingly great rates for everyone inside the state of Louisiana. So call him today at 985-395-4300, 985-395-4300 for all of those surprisingly great rates on auto, home, and life insurance needs. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there, and individual premiums will vary by customer. All applicants subject to the State Farm underwriting requirements. All right, before we get out of here, I want to bring this up because we're going to do a massive deep dive tomorrow on Arkansas, and we'll go into the weeds. Guys, Arkansas is a dangerous club. They got 5 players that have double-digit home runs or plus. Now, some of that, some people say for Arkansas is a little bit misconstrued because of what they did against Missouri a couple of weeks ago. But, guys, they can really hit. The thing with Arkansas has been the previous years, man, they can't hit the ball. I mean, they got pitching for days. They can't swing it. But the Aloy brothers, one that's at short and one that you'll see a lot of different places, one has 17 bombs. The other has 12. Charles Davilan has 13. Cozell has 11. Iredale has 12. Guys, they can swing it. Not only can they swing it, guys, if you look at what they've done as a club, they hit a lot of extra base hits. One's got 17, one's got 14. They're all in double digits. They have been killing the baseball, but they've also lost 3 out of the last 4 series. And out of the last 3 to 4 series that they lost, they beat Texas and swept them, which made LSU fans like, oh, my God, where they're going to come in here and beat the dog shit out of us. That just tells me that you're not watching baseball because they lost 3 of their last 4 series, and they're still a very good team, but they still lost 3 of their last 4 series. And I don't know why nobody wants to talk about this. I get that Texas is the number 1 team in the country. Guys, they are beat to shit. They are beat to shit. I look at a series like what happened at Texas, right? I have a series, or I have a feeling, right, that we get to a place when we look at baseball and say, look, man, this team's been unbeatable. Look at them. Because Texas has been, their Friday night guys out. The former Big 12 player of the year, Max Ballou's out. They got injuries scattered all over the place. They don't have their best stars. They don't. It'd be like us losing Curiel. It'd be like us losing Kate Anderson in a way. Guys, what would you expect at that? And they got swept. I can't believe that I got to be the Texas defender here, but the reality is the reality. The reality is simple. Guys, Texas is hurting right now, and I think that they have a chance. Quite frankly, I don't know how their season's going to end, but they're going to have to really lock in, and we'll see what happens with Texas. Maybe they can find their own and find their way. I don't know. What I know is Arkansas comes into Baton Rouge, and they're a really good team. But I still think Arkansas's got questions just as much as you do. They lost games 2 and 3 versus Georgia on the road. Lost 1 by 1 and lost 1 in extra innings by 1. They lost game 1 and game 3 to A&M. They lost games 1 and 3 to Florida. They swept Texas, but they lost 3 straight series and then finally got their wins. So they were losing close games because they weren't getting those hits in crucial situations. Guys, they were still swinging it damn good. Damn good. So we're going to talk about this team tomorrow at great depth. I am not of the belief that Arkansas is just flawless. I'm not of that belief. I am of the belief that if they're on, you're in trouble, but they're going to have to look, call me a homer, call me whatever you want. I'm going to need them to see it come in Baton Rouge and beat you 2 out of 3. And maybe they can. They certainly have the talent to do it. I think that you can take it from them. I think you can take it from them because you need to as well. So we'll get into that tomorrow. Frank Castle says, to look on the bright side, we'll know almost everything about this LSU football team in the first 3 games with Clemson and then Florida in week 3. Frank, I completely agree. I completely agree. I completely agree there. Completely agree. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what to add there. I don't know what to add. I really don't know what to add there. Todd Davis says, if 9-3 is the real floor, then Vegas gets crushed. It does get crushed. I think the floor is 8-4. I think the floor is 8-4, if I'm being honest. I don't see you going worse than that. I really, really, really don't. But I don't know if you can eclipse the 9, though. I don't know if you can eclipse the 9. And guys, you know what the biggest thing here too is that Brian Kelly's going to have for the first time 10 wins in a regular season. He almost did it in 2022 until that last game with A&M. So we'll see. But I don't think it's the outright being. Adam Cook says, Blake, am I the only one else that sees Palmineri when he is in a press conference and refers to LSU as the other school? I hadn't noticed that. Boy, that's interesting. I'm going to have to look into that. Paul Saab Martin says, Andrew, Arkansas usually struggles in the box. They do. Guys, they went in 2 series on the road and lost. What's the narrative around Arkansas? Guys, we can't win on the road. Our bats get cold when we need them most on the road. Sound familiar? Does that sound familiar? Ask any Arkansas fan. Man, we can't make that final pitch to get us out of a game. Sound familiar? Anyway. All right. Let's get out of here. We'll see y'all tomorrow, man. You have a good night. Peace.